Oh no, you did it right. You got it right? Good. All right, so step number one is to add the 32. So we're going to start off by adding 32. So that gives you x squared plus 6x equals 41. So now, part 2 says factor out a, but a is 1, so we don't have to factor it out because it's 1. So now we're going to go to step 3, which is to complete the square, because this is incomplete. So to figure out what number is going to complete the square, you take b divided by 2 squared, and you get 9. You're going to add that here and here. So now this is a perfect square. So what two numbers multiply to give you 9 and add to 6? 3. So this factors down to x plus 3 squared. And that equals 50. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 50. So 50 is not a perfect square. But if you look at the list of perfect squares that we have over here on the board, which one of these numbers will divide into 50? 25. And 25 times what is 50? 2. So we're going to break that apart to 25 times 2. Which is going to be 5 square root of 2. And your last step will be to subtract the 3 because it's positive. And that is how we get negative 3 plus or minus 5 root 2. Any questions about that? All right, so this is our last day doing complete the square. We're going to move on to something else tomorrow. Let's do 2 more together. And keep in mind, this is just one thing on the test. Just one thing. I think this class is doing pretty good with it though. So, all right, so now let's look at a couple examples where A is not 1. So I want you to take a minute and try to work through this one by yourself. And then we'll go through it as a class. And we do get an ugly fraction. So don't think it's wrong. We didn't get a nice, pretty, perfect square this time. We have a fraction. And that's okay. right, let's work through it together. Let's work through it together. I'm gonna put the answer up, and then you tell me how many people had the right answer. I think we're getting closer. Okay, but this is, I guess, technically the first new thing for a lot of you. So we just gotta be patient. Give yourself some grace. So this is the answer that I would be looking for. X equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 7/8. That's what I'm looking for. Who had that? All right, let's go through it together. Let's go through it step by step, really slow. Step number 1, subtract the 5. So now we have this. Do we agree with that? I'm going to go through this really slow. Step number 2, take out the 8. Not the GCF, just the A value. And in this example, that would be 8. You're going to divide both of these by 8. When you divide them by 8, you have x squared plus 2x, and that equals -1. All right. Any questions about up until that step? Okay, so now we need to complete the square because it's incomplete. We need to complete it. So we need to figure out what number completes the square. This is your B value. So you're going to take that 2, divide it by 2, and square it. Figure out what you get when you take that 2, divide it by 2, and square it. What do you get? What is 2 divided by 2 squared? 1. So I'm going to add that 1 here. But on the other side, I'm really adding, because everything in this parentheses is multiplied by 8. So in order to keep the equation balanced, I need to add 8 times 1 on the other side. So I'm going to add 8 times 1. So now let's go ahead, simplify this down a little bit. So this can be factored. What does that factor down to? That's a perfect square. X plus 1 times x plus 1. If you take x plus 1 times x plus 1, you get x squared plus 2x plus 1. So we have 8, and then I have the x plus 1 squared. Now figure out what you get when you add this in your calculator. You got -1 plus 8 times 1, and that's where we get the 7. So before we take the square root, we have to divide both sides by that 8. So that would be x plus 1 squared equals 7/8. Take the square root. So x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 7/8. And then I subtract the 1. So I'm not asking you if you can do this yet by yourself, because I recognize this is new. This is only our second day. But do you understand the steps? Because the steps don't change. I'm never going to change. I'm not going to say, okay, today we're going to do it totally different than we did it yesterday. Nope, it's the same steps, over and over again. All right, last one. Last, complete the square. Try to do it by yourself. You get another fraction again underneath the square root. Should be on the outside. So it should look like this. Not like this. Some of y'all got it. So somebody who didn't get it right last time. Because if you got it right last time, you probably got it right this time. And you want me to check it to see if we got it. Yep. Divided by 2. And then you almost there. Divided by 2. -5 plus or minus the square root of 35 over 2. That's your answer. All right, let's work through it together. Almost done. Step number 1, subtract the 19. Step number 2, take out the 2. Step number 3, complete the square. So you're going to take the 10 divided by 2 squared, which will give you 25. So I'm going to add that number here. And on the outside, I'm going to add 2 times 25. I'm going to factor that down. So that would be 2 times x plus 5 squared equals 35. Divide by 2. Take the square root and subtract 5. So x equals -5 plus or minus the square root of 35 over 2. Any questions about how we did that? All right, I'm tired of completing the square. We might do one tomorrow, but let's move on to something else. I just want to review one more time how to factor. Is it Brandon? Is your name Brandon? No, Ed.
Yeah.
Eduardo? Yes. Did you have a question? Yeah. It's past time, but hurry up. 2 o'clock is the cutoff, so. All right, so last 2 questions. Go ahead, copy these 2 down. I just want to remind you how to factor, because we haven't factored in a while. You have a skills check. It's on the side of my desk. Okay, we have a skills check on Friday, so I don't want you to forget what we covered before. So for this one, we're going to factor this down. A is 1. So you need to figure out 2 numbers that multiply to negative 48 and add to negative 13. They multiply and add. So don't say it out loud, but I want you to see if you can think of the 2 numbers. They multiply to give you negative 48, and they add to negative 13. All right, what do you think the numbers are? Yep, negative 16 and positive 3. All right, so because this is x to the 4th, do you remember what is this going to break apart to? X to the what? X squared. Yep, we're going to put an x squared in the front of both of our parentheses. And then in one parentheses, put the negative 16. In the other one, put the plus 3. One of these can factor down again. Which one? X squared minus 16. Yep. 16 is a perfect square. So this is what it factors down to. And then that x squared plus 3, that's going to stay because we can't factor that. So take each one of these parentheses and set them equal to 0 to get your solution. So take x plus 4, set that equal to 0. X minus 4, set that equal to 0. And now this x squared plus 3, when we set that equal to 0 and solve it, that one is a little different. So what am I going to do first to solve that? Subtract the 3. And then how do you get rid of a square root? I mean a square. Square root. So x equals plus or minus. Every time you take a square root and you're solving, you have to put plus or minus. Now normally that would be okay, but we have a problem. The problem is we have a negative underneath a square root. We can never leave a negative under a square root. We have to take it out every single time. So we're going to separate that. Negative 1 times 3. And what is the square root of negative 1? All right, so these are your 2 answers. So my answers are x equals 4, x equals negative 4, x equals positive I square root of 3, x equals negative I square root of 3. And you don't have to separate it, but I want you all to see it's a 4th degree, and there are 4 answers. Who remembers this? I think we did this on Monday. Just wanted to hit it again. All right, last one. Go ahead and copy this down. We have 4 terms. We're going to factor by grouping. So I want you to put the first 2. This is my blue group. We're going to take the GCF of the blue group, find the GCF of the pink group. So Go ahead, copy it down. Take out the GCF. What's the GCF of the blue group? X squared. Yep. So we're going to take out the x squared. Whenever you take out a GCF, that is division. So we're really dividing both of these terms. And when I do that, what do I have left? 2x minus 1. Now look at your pink group. We need to take out something. But whatever we take out, I need to have a 2x minus 1 left. Not positive 4, negative 4. We got to take out a negative 4. All right, so these match up, so I know I did it right. So I have 2x minus 1. And then I have x squared minus 4 here. That can factor down again. Go ahead and set all 3 equal to 0 to get your 3 solutions. First one is a fraction, and the last 2 are not. All right, that's the end of class today. If you have questions tomorrow, again, we're going to grade homework 1, and we're going to start appendix